Hi, this is JP Morgan.
And this is Kenneth Merrill.
And today we have with us
Ellen Ho.
Ellen is our model who's going to help us do a comparison of these three mirrorless cameras. We've got here the A7R3, which is not a new camera, but we think competes very nicely with these two cameras. And we
have the Canon EOS R and the Nikon Z7.
The R and the Z7. So we've had these cameras in our hands, and it's given us an opportunity to kind of get a sense of how they set up and how they shoot. I mean, we haven't shot a lot with them yet, but it gives a just general sense of them. So we're going to look at dynamic range, we're going to look at image quality, we're going to look at the ISO test, and autofocus, but the Nikon's not working very well.
Yeah, we might not be able to do the autofocus test because our Nikon is just not working at all. And I get the sense it's not the model, it's our specific camera. There's something wrong with this.
So there you go. So let's get to our tests and get started. Special shout out to Borrow Lenses, just a great place to be able to rent equipment that you don't have or you may need for a special occasion or you just want to try it out.
They'll ship the equipment straight to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. Very convenient, very fast, very affordable.
Just a great way to work, so Borrow Lenses. So we're going to take a look at dynamic range here. We're shooting 4 stops over and 5 stops under?
Yeah.
Can do 5 under?
Yeah, we probably don't need to do 4 over, honestly. These digital cameras can't ever hold
It's going to fall apart pretty quick there.
5 under, I've seen Nikons hold 5 under before, so.
Okay. There's our first 3 images, just the standard images.
Properly exposed.
Properly exposed.
For her face is properly exposed.
That's what we're going to work everything on is her face. Make sure her face is properly exposed.
I will say it's the Nikon, all Nikons they're very sensitive cameras, and you can already see that just in this starting image because the clouds in the background, and they're heavier clouds in that image than there were in the others, but they're just blown out already.
They're just blown out.
Funny.
Yeah.
The Nikon wants to be underexposed.
Now we go -1. They all look really good. I mean, we're still holding. This is at -1. If we go up to -2, no trouble holding the highlights in any of them. Is anything happening there that feels weird to you?
No, nothing.
So at -3, I mean,
they look really good. I feel like when you blow them up, this is when you're going to start seeing some problems. And you do see it a little bit. You blow it up 100% on their eyes, and there is some noise. The Canon's handling it super well.
The Canon really is. It's pretty soft yet. It's not
like
near
gritty
as gritty as the Sony and the Nikon
colorful.
are. Yeah.
That surprises me. Usually the Sony does really well underexposed, but Canon's beating out here.
That's at 3 stops, so we're 3 stops underexposed. Let's see what 4 stops looks like.
-4 stops is a lot to expect from a camera, but again, the Canon handles it more gracefully than the others. I would say the Sony kind of loses out on this because you're getting this discoloration next to her eye.
Boy, you really are, and it's
weird.
Just really pixelated. I mean, the Canon really is holding it the best. We're still holding the background. We're still holding the wall here. When we go -5, they just fall off a cliff, man.
That Sony just
The Sony
died.
is like yeah.
I would say for underexposure, the Canon wins out, which is a surprise to me.
Yeah, that is interesting to me.
Though you are getting this weird, look at this streaking. This streaking is weird.
It really
that
is
feels
weird.
like a sensor pattern to me.
It does to me too. It's like, yeah, it really does. Let's look at +1 now. It's interesting how 1 stop, and you're already seeing significant issues with the Canon in the whites, in the Nikon, way problems.
Yeah.
The Sony's holding the +1 much better.
Yeah, Sony's holding the wall. It's holding most of the clouds back there.
Yep.
I mean, she looks fine at +1, and this is really her. She is +1 stop. That wall's probably +5.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that Sony looks good.
It does. So let's go to +2 here. At +2.
The Canon and the Sony still look good on her face. Her face looks fine. It's 2 stops overexposed, but the Nikon, I mean, look at her nose. It's discolored. You're burning out the information there.
So you go to +4, and they're now.
Or +3.
I mean, yeah. This +3. Yeah, +3. I mean, nobody's holding the building on the left anymore.
Yeah.
But the Nikon is it's really bad on her face. It's just the white. The highlights have started to just blow out even on her face. And if we go to +4.
Yeah, that's where they all mess up.
So what do we draw from this?
I feel like Sony did really well at overexposure, but not very well at underexposure. Canon was right neck and neck with overexposure, and it did really well with underexposure.
It did way better than I thought it was going to, actually.
The Nikon was good with underexposure, but it sucks when you blow it out. So
yeah.
I feel like the Canon it's a good winner. You know, it wins by a neck in the dynamic range department, and the Sony's close behind
Very
it.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really neck and neck. They really are. That surprised me though that the Nikon is that
I would have expected the
behind.
Nikon to outperform the other two.
Yeah, me too. That's really surprising me.
Of course, one of the most basic tests you can do with the camera is to just do a great well-lit portrait. We're looking at tonality, resolution, skin tones, color response. We're going to shoot kind of a headshot here with Ellen, and then we're also going to shoot a shot of this little pub.
The pub.
Graffiti. There we're just looking at resolution, how the detail is rendered in each camera. These are all pretty high resolution, except the Canon, which is only 30 megapixels.
Only.
Only.
But the others are in the 40s.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
others are in the
it's
40s. So.
Pretty amazing. So
They are all different lenses, so that's a factor. But again, I figure most people are going to be shooting with native lenses, so that's what we like to stick to most of the time. So with this test, we just wanted to look at two different photos. We want to look at first at a portrait, and we didn't do any color adjustments or anything to these. These are straight out of the camera. You can see right off the bat the Sony is darker. It's not as sensitive as the others.
it is a little bit. Yeah.
The Nikon's the
brightest, which we've already talked about, which is kind of overrated. It's a
Yeah.
little too bright. The Canon's always kind of right where it needs
Right
to
where
be.
it needs to be.
Yeah.
I feel like the Nikon always has this hard contrast going
Yes.
on. It's nice. It has almost like a commercial feel right out of the box, but it's a little contrasty for me, whereas the Canon and the Sony have a more smooth tonality.
Well, let's just look at just a simple, you know, this is the
this
shot
is-
of the wall
This
here.
is a better look because this is all detail. That's all it is.
Just, yeah, it's just detail. So if we blow this up to 100%, just on the chalk,
It was hard with the Nikon because the autofocus wasn't working, so we were eyeballing
we
it.
struggled with the autofocus on the Nikon, and I think we had a bad camera
it
or
was a bad
something.
camera,
Something was
yeah.
just not working for us.
'Cause
So
it was not doing it.
well, I think in this situation that Sony A7R3 is,
Overall winner.
yeah, I just think it is. With
Why-
regards, well, not necessarily more so than the Nikon, but it edges out the Canon. Those two those two do edge out.
The Canon does lose a little bit on the detail, and I think at that point it's just, do you want Nikon's tonality and color, or do you want Sony's tonality
Yeah.
and color? And they both look good, but so the winner here I think is the Sony or the Nikon, and that's going to be more of a system or color preference for you. You know, what do you like? What do you like the look of or the feel of? Canon loses out a little bit because of the detail.
So we're doing the autofocus test, which is really just our model walking straight towards the camera, which is the hardest thing for cameras to follow and to track. The Canon did exceptionally well, and the Sony does exceptionally well. Our Nikon is not working. The autofocus is just not working. Something wrong with the camera. It is not the autofocus, so we don't have a good way to test that. But we'll look at these two compared to each other. This is the Sony. So let's just take a look at her as she goes. We've looked through every one of these with them blown up at 100%. And the reality is, she's sharp. She's walking
Sharp
towards us
most of the time. Yeah, I mean, it's hitting 5 out of 6 photos.
And at the very end, we lose the Sony completely.
I think it's because she got too close.
A little too close to the lens, but it tracked extremely well. I mean, you couldn't ask for better than that, really. And the Canon, you know what? The Canon was
amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
There are 33 photos, and only one was unusable, and 2 of them were a little soft.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Sony was incredible, and I think the Canon was even better.
So I think those two are incredible. I wish we could have tested the
I
Nikon.
know.
From everything I read, though, it probably would have fallen way short of
I
this.
think it would have. My top pick is the Canon, and the Sony is a super close second.
Boy, we're talking super
Yeah.
close here. Super close.
All right, so for the ISO test, we started at 1600 ISO because these days everything up to that is pretty clean. So
Yeah.
let's look at that dark gray chip right under the black there on the spider checker real fast.
Right there.
Yeah.
We are seeing you're seeing
You are seeing some noise.
some noise in each of these. But look at the Nikon. It's way more on the Nikon.
It is more, yeah. But I would still use the photo. Still looks good. I'm gonna say the Sony, as always, is about to stop underexposed here.
Okay, let's go on to 3200 here.
She's looking good. All the parts of the image that are bright are looking pretty good. Sony's starting to look a little colorful in that noise.
Getting a little bit of you're getting some reds.
The Nikon's getting kind of gritty too. Not colorful, but just gritty and thick.
Is it just no? It's not just me. The Canon is definitely looking
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's looking nice. So if we go to 6400,
The Nikon seems the grittiest.
It seems the greatest, and also color-wise seems probably the most neutral. The Sony seems just a little bit green. The Canon seems a little bit magenta.
Yeah.
12,800. I'm sure her eye is going to look really good.
The Nikon does have a consistency to it, but it's not performing as well as the Canon. That Canon is just still so good.
I'm shocked at 12,800. It really is. Probably it's the cleanest by far.
Yeah. The Canon's starting to see it now. It doesn't look as good.
No, it doesn't look good. But look at the Sony. It's got
terrible.
yellows and greens, got all kinds of colors
Bad.
going on. You know,
The Nikon's gritty, but it's not colorful, so that's
No.
good. So I think the conclusion is Canon is a clear winner in the ISO.
yes.
And Nikon comes in a second, but it's not nearly as good as the Canon. And then the Sony just kind of doesn't really perform very well.
Doesn't really do very well, does it?
When it comes to video features, this is kind of a mixed bunch. I mean, you have the Nikon. The Sony, of course, has tons of video features, really on the forefront in terms of that. And then we have the new Canon R. We're going to test them in 4K mode just to see the resolution, see if they're all resolving as well as each other. And then we're going to shoot in 1080p mode. Okay, so we're looking here at 4K footage from all three cameras. Now we shot the Nikon and the Sony footage at the same time. We could shoot them side by side because they shoot full frame 4K. Whereas the Canon we had to clear the other cameras and move the Canon back
Way
about
back.
100
Give us the
feet.
same cropping.
It was only about 10 feet to give us the same crop. The Canon's 4K footage looks good to me. This is classic Canon color. It's really sharp. Might be a little overly sharp. I'd probably turn down the sharpness in camera. But it looks nice.
It looks very nice.
It looks nice. I wish it weren't so cropped. It feels to me like the Sony is a little more naturalistic. The Canon felt like it had been sharpened a little bit on the edges. And then let's look at the Nikon. This is my least favorite image of the bunch.
Feels kind of contrasty first off, but it certainly feels sharp. You know,
It's like too sharp though.
it's almost,
you know?
yeah.
So just straight 4K, I think the Sony wins. Disregarding everything else, just 4K image quality, I think the Sony wins. I think the Canon is a pretty good second, and the Nikon would be my last pick. Wow, the 1080 on the Canon looks terrible.
Boy, the 4K was so much better.
So much better.
This is really bad.
The Sony 1080 doesn't even look that good either.
Doesn't look that
Honestly,
great
super,
either.
super mushy and soft. I'd say kind of the same problem as the Canon. And then here's the Nikon. This looks really overly crunchy,
Very, yeah,
handy
contrasty
yeah.
and. Well, I think there were some things that surprised me about it. I was really impressed with how well the Canon handled the ISO. That was very impressive. I was impressed with the autofocus on the Canon.
And the dynamic range. Edged out.
And the
everybody
dynamic
else in the dynamic range.
yes. I mean, all those things were really impressive to me. But I just felt like because it doesn't do 4K in a non-crop mode, if you want a crossover camera, it's not a winner. It's not it, you know. If you want a still camera,
might be the best choice.
It's a very
unless you need those extra megapixels.
which I do. I love the A7R3 because it's got a great megapixel. It's a great video camera. It just all around. It really hits the spot on all those things. But the dynamic range just is not good. You better hit your exposure, and the ISO is not amazing.
It's funny because I was really, really excited for the Nikon because when we've been testing like the D850 over and over again, I've kind of fallen in love with that. I actually think the Nikon D850 is the best DSLR out there right now.
It's an amazing camera.
It's an amazing
camera. It really
camera.
is.
So I was so excited for the Nikon mirrorless camera to just kind of watch them blow everybody else out of the water in the mirrorless department, and it kind of fell on its face.
Didn't quite make it.
We didn't test the autofocus, but I've heard the autofocus isn't great. It doesn't have that 3D tracking. The image quality was not as good as I expected. I feel like it wasn't even as good as the D850. It didn't quite have the dynamic range. It didn't quite have the sensitivity. It lost to the Canon in every department, which is mind-blowing because I did not expect the Canon to come out and beat the Nikon in all the photo departments.
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Doesn't make any sense. So this was definitely an upset for me. I agree with you. I think the Sony is overall the best camera. But if you're going to be shooting stills, I might say go with the Canon. And there are a couple cherries on top of that too, because the Canon has a closed shutter when you turn the camera off and remove the lens. Unlike the Sony and the Nikon, where you take the lens off and the sensor is exposed to the elements right there, which has always been more of a problem than you would expect.
There's a couple of things that bugged me about it, about both the Nikon and the Canon, and that was single card slot. And everyone complains about that because you can't back up as you're shooting.
Yeah.
Also, we go to shoot, and I'm going, are you kidding me? it doesn't take an SD card, the Nikon.
The Nikon,
It takes this
XQD,
XQD card, and I'm going, no! I mean, okay, I get it, new technology and all this kind, but the industry is just so focused around SD cards. Everyone has them. That's, you know, now you got to buy these cards that for 128 is like $140.
But between the 3 cameras, if you're going for a mirrorless camera, I'm going to say if stills is your main gig and you're not really concerned with video, surprisingly, I would pick the Canon.
Interesting, even though it's a 30 megapixel.
Even though it's lower. But if you need an all-around camera, a crossover camera that shoots great video and has great stills and is super high resolution, the Sony is kind of the winner.
Sony definitely is for me, and that's why I use the Sony A7R3, is just because of that.
Yeah.
It's a great video camera, great still camera. So there you have it. Leave a comment below. We'd love to have your feedback on this. We're looking for other cameras and other ideas of things to look at and to review. So leave a comment, follow us, like us. Make sure you definitely follow us. Check out our download too. We
just launched a download for teaching people who are moving from photo to video. If you want to get into that video space and you're not really sure how to handle it, how to set up your camera for video, or how to set up lights or sound, and sound's a huge deal. Check out our download. It's very affordable. We teach you pretty much everything you need to know to get started shooting video projects, whether it's music videos or documentaries and stuff. And
So go to theslantlens.com, click on the store, and you can purchase that video download there. It'll help you jumpstart you getting into video. So thank you for watching, and keep those cameras rolling.
And keep on clicking.
It's just dumb. If it's not funny, then it's dumb. Is it funny?
It's kind of weird. We can make it funny. Just lock up like cartoonish.
Cartoonish makes everything funny.
You look like a cartoon.
I appreciate that. I'm not sure how to take that.
It's a compliment.
Okay.
It means you don't look basic.
All right, well, there you go.